welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm finally here with a new video. So the goal of this video originally was to start the month off right. As you can see by the time you're watching this video, it is well into almost the end of the month. It's the midway through the month, past the midway through the month. It took me so long, and it's for the simple fact that I thought by getting my cards right and planning correctly, I would start the month off strong. And alas, I did not. So let's get into the vlog where you're going to see me read Creativity by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, The Path of Daggers, which is book 8 in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. And then just to keep myself sane, I ended up finishing a manga series, the Neon Genesis Evangelion manga series by Yoshiyuki Sadamoto. And this is volumes 4 and 5 of the omnibus editions. So let's go back to Kelsey almost 16 days ago. And get into it. Hello, so I'm sure I have a better introduction to this vlog, but I am trying to catch up, or at least starting May off on a good point. The first book that I'm reading, or since April, but it's just really hard and not capturing my attention, is Creativity. This is The Psychology of Discovery and Invention by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Sorry for butchering that completely. He wrote a book called Flow, which was recommended to me to read for my job by one of my managers in the past. But I wasn't able to find that book for cheap, so I had found Creativity used, and I wanted to give it a go to see if I enjoy the discussions that this professor is having in his books. The basis of this book is that a lot of people were interviewed to kind of get the dynamic of their creative process and their creative flow and how they went about understanding creativity to their own perception of it, right? What ended up happening is that he interviewed a bunch of people. So this is artists, writers, poets, scientists, psychologists, stuff like that, and understanding the way that they think and the way that they become creative. What starts off the book is that he's explaining how the people that you deem creative, so artists and writers, were the ones that did not want to participate in his study because they feel like their creative juices are come to them as a sort of idea in a sense, and not really that they have a concept to the way that they understand their own creativity. It sort of comes to them naturally. The scientists, or the ones that have more logical and structured thinking, think of their creativity and think of the way that they discover things more analytically, and I think that that's an interesting aspect. Right now we are in the creative surroundings chapter, so this is the argument that I'm just gonna call him the professor, is making, is that if you are surrounded by other creatives, you will tend to be more creative. So that's the aspect that we're looking at right now. It is a very interesting book, but it is very dense, so I have a lot of trouble keeping my attention with this book. So what I want to do is finish that, and at the same time, I think I'm going to also get the audiobook for The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. This is the 8th book in the Wheel of Time series. The Wheel of Time series is a story that follows the Dragon Reborn and a bunch of his friends as they are sort of tackling the rise of evil once more. Obviously, the 8th book in the series, I will not be spoiling it too much. I will not be spoiling this, but I do just want to make a dent in it because it is the shortest one. I am now in the Wheel of Time slump. What this is that even fans of the series agree that books 7 to 11, I think, are the worst books in the series. Almost not important, but there are some things in them to take into consideration as you move forward into the series. I am only reading this series because I want to read everything Brandon Sanderson's ever written, and Robert Jordan had passed away before he was able to reach the end of his grandiose series. Brandon Sanderson finished up the rest, so I do want to read those last 3 books that Brandon Sanderson wrote, and that is why I'm reading this entire series. So I'm in the slump. I don't like the series already as it is. There are some wins of books that I enjoy, but most of them have been pretty much duds. And I expect this to be no less, but I need to make my way through because that is one of my goals, to finish the Wheel of Time series maybe this year. I don't know, we'll see. So that is my plans for tonight. I have some sweet potatoes baking in the oven. I'm going to decide which of these I want to read. I'm hoping that because I'm not excited for either of these books, the fact that I'm vlogging it and the fact that I have accountability in a sense will push me to get these done. She slayed today with the bean salad. Hello, it is currently 8 o'clock. I got home maybe like 2 hours ago. I went out for yoga today, went for lunch with my friend. We walked around. It was a very nice day, but when I got home, I was exhausted. Mostly because I got up way earlier than I normally do on the weekend, so I just needed a little nap. I just had my bean salad for supper. I have the Bruins game on. Go Bees. Hello, darkness, my old friend. And I'm going to sit back and watch this game while also continuing either Creativity or Path of Daggers, but I have to be honest, they have not been pulling me. We're just gonna have to pick one and commit. I did not read yesterday because I was also exhausted, so I didn't do that. And basically, I've put myself like willingly and knowingly in a reading slump, but we're gonna see what happens. I'll probably also do laundry within the next half hour, but I'm just going to watch this game and commit, and we'll see what happens. Good morning. So well, it's not really morning, it's afternoon, but I just finished having like lunch breakfast. And I've developed a cottage cheese ick. That happened this morning. Very happy about that. I barely get enough protein as it is, and now I'm developing an ick to cottage cheese, which I really enjoyed in my granolas. Last night I got really far into Creativity. I'm pretty sure I have about an hour left on the audiobook, so I think I'm just going to try to knock this out and come with some sort of a semblance of a review. I don't necessarily think I'm going to rate this because really it's just a scientific look at creativity and the psychology behind it. So really the research is like, does having a family who support you lead you to positive creativity? Does a family who doesn't support you lead you to creativity? These are the sort of like arguments that our author is making, but they're not necessarily confirming anything because it's really just like, it doesn't seem to matter besides having your own space to be creative. Like that, I think, is going to be the sort of thesis that it's really just about space, and obviously that develops into more privileged identity. Is privilege the only way you can really be creative? So interested to see. I will get back to you on that, but I don't think I can really rate this because it's not really doing anything for me at all. Hello, it's been a couple of days just because like mentally and physically I'm exhausted. I must be like sick or under the weather or something, but I just, for the purpose of this vlog, wanted to go over my final thoughts for Creativity. Wait, did I already talk about this? Okay, no, I didn't talk about it. But I'm not really sure you could give this book a rating without really feeling like a professor just grading like a thesis paper. Csikszentmihalyi, I think that's how you pronounce it, states his thesis and his hypothesis and pretty much the conclusion of this book within the first like 1% of the novel. So the rest of the book is really just an expansion on this thought and this hypothesis, and you don't really need much else. It's like if you understand at the bare bones the hypothesis and the thesis that he's trying to make with this book, I don't think you need to read the book. And if I were thinking of it as a paper and I was thinking of it as like the introduction, the statement of the thesis, the expanding points, the final conclusion, all wrapped up in a nice little bow, I would give this an A+. I would say like this is a brilliant proof of a thesis statement that you have. However, a lot of what he describes in this book is primarily reached through privilege. Like a lot of them, I think I touched upon this, but like a lot of them talked about like having their own space or having parents who supported them or having the money to be able to take on these more creative ideologies and thoughts that most of the interviewees had. And I don't feel like he really dived into that enough to satisfy me. Like at the end of the day, these people are successful in their creativity because they have the space, the time, the money to be able to do so. And I think he's like hinting at it. Like he does say like very lucky that they had parents, very lucky that they had money, but he's not like concretely saying that. And I think that would have been the most important. I read it to like understand the creative thought process, but like I could have done without this book pretty much. And then just as an update of where I am in Path of Daggers, I am at the 115 page mark. And obviously as expected, nothing has really happened. Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene are on a journey. They have to reach somewhere. I don't remember the name of it, but they're basically with a bunch of other Aes Sedai, and that's sort of where we're at now. We've just had chapters from their perspective. So I just came back from the gym. It is in fact 10 p.m, quite late in the day. I work tomorrow and I have to go into work. So that means I have to get it early. And I think what I'm going to do is just like chill out, listen to Path of Daggers, and then go to bed whenever I can. And that's it. See you later.
Several long days later.
So this video is going to come to you late because I made the mistake of putting too many important things to do for this vlog as like a get the month started with me well, but all of these things are putting me in a reading slump. Creativity was so boring, right? And Path of Daggers, like I'm not the biggest Robert Jordan fan. I'm not the biggest Wheel of Time fan. So like I'm getting through the series to get to the Brandon Sanderson part, and that's all I care about. So when I'm reading these books, I'm not having a good time. And I think I've just been putting them off for days, and I don't want to get to the arc. I haven't started the arc. The arc came out by the time, like my goal was to have it done beforehand, and now it's out. I just got home from work. I'm exhausted. I do not feel like reading The Path of Daggers, but I do want to make it a point to read it tonight. So I think what I'm going to do, I haven't read a manga in a while, and I think that this is just what I need to, oops, I have it upside down. I think this is just what I need to get myself back in the like love of reading. And if you've never watched like my manga 24-hour manga reads, I'll leave a link to the playlist up above. I really enjoy manga all the time, but I never like give myself a manga as a priority because I'm like, oh, I can finish that in an hour, but I need to because then I just put them off and I have millions of manga that I don't read. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up Neon Genesis Evangelion. This is my favorite series of all time. I've watched the anime several times. I read the first two like omnibuses more than once, but this is the first time that I'm getting through the entire collection of Neon Genesis Evangelion. I think this is the penultimate manga, if I'm not mistaken. So this is the penultimate volume. It contains volumes 10, 11, and 12 of Neon Genesis Evangelion. If you don't know what Neon Genesis Evangelion is, first of all, you need to watch it. If not, to watch just the intro that has the most banging song of all time, the most banging intro. I love it so much, I could sing it every day. But Neon Genesis Evangelion follows a young boy named Shinji who is recruited to join this team of children who are assigned to Evas. The Evas are these like humanoid mechas that the children control in order to defeat the biblical angels that are coming down to New Tokyo to destroy the world. And so only the children are able to control these mechas. We are getting to the parts to understand why the children are able to control the mechas. I obviously know, but in the manga, we're only unveiling this knowledge as the story is progressing. And this story is also a huge metaphor for like living in your parents' shadow, living in their dreams, fulfilling these dreams for them, depression, suicidal ideation, a bunch of stuff that is being discussed in this series. So I highly recommend Neon Genesis Evangelion if you have not ever watched it or read the manga. But I think I need to read this. I need to relax from the difficult week I had, just enjoy something for once, and then I'll move into Path of Daggers later. Okay, so giving myself a break and reading a manga was the vibe. I just needed to be back in a world that I cared about, with characters that I cared about, and just enjoy like a visual medium that I already know that I love before obviously jumping into something that I don't necessarily love as much. So just for like a little review, because I don't know how many people I know who watch my videos like Neon Genesis Evangelion like I do, and who would be like 4 mega volumes deep into a manga of a show that they've already watched. But this was the best volume that I've read hands down, and also the best part of the season as well, in my opinion. So much of the secrets of Nerve are revealed in this one, or like alluded to, and you can sort of figure it out. And we learn so much about characters in here and about what the Evas are and about the like goals of the government of Nerve, of the other competing factors. And we still have questions that are left unanswered, and I'm interested to see how the last 2 volumes will end the series, because I've heard that it's a little bit different from the anime. The lore is one of the best parts of the anime. Obviously, if you know me, you know I love religious symbolism, and Neon Genesis Evangelion has a lot of Christian symbolism that I think is just so interestingly used. In this one, we really get to explore exactly what the impacts are. The impacts are what have destroyed the earth, destroyed humanity twice, and they are living in fear of the third impact and what the third impact is very interesting. But what really shines in this volume and what really shines in the anime as well is how much Shinji himself is forced to like grow up and confront his own mental demons while still being a child. And it's a running theme throughout the anime, throughout the manga, but it's definitely more heavily explored here, especially with the expectations that Shinji's father Ikari puts on him. Also, we lose a character that I absolutely love in the series, and I think that I forgot about it. I think I removed it from my brain because I was shook at the end of this volume, and I thought this was like one of the differences, but then I went and I watched the scene and it came back to me. R.I.P. to that character. Love them. But yeah, this is exactly what I needed, exactly what I wanted to read. And I have a feeling I'm just going to finish the series, maybe not in this vlog, but definitely this month. And that made me way more excited to dive into Path of Daggers. I felt like refreshed, sort of. So I'm now at page 214 and we are in a heavily big Perrin section. And Perrin is sort of communicating with the Aes Sedai, creating alliances for Rand outside of where Rand currently is in the series. So the first like half of this book, really, because I think it's only like 500, we followed like Elaine and Perrin, and I would argue that these are very interesting characters. I think they have really interesting motivations, but they're not the most engaging characters. Like the way that they think and the way that their POVs are very not innocent, but they definitely think a very like certain way, and I think both of them really do think the same. They feel like they are owed because they are good people, while also having conflicting thoughts about the people that they are with. So obviously for Elaine, I was about to spoil like who they end up with in like romantic pairings, so I won't, but they're definitely with more politically inclined people and people who really move and do political movements for themselves. So them as characters is really motivated by trying to solidify these alliances that they're significant others are doing, while also trying to remain loyal and true to who they are as people. While they're not the most like exciting chapters I've ever read, you definitely see the development of this loyalty, but because they are still like young adults and still written by Robert Jordan, their perspectives are so god awfully annoying because all they can focus on is their significant others and their relationships. And the way that Robert Jordan just intensifies his beliefs of gender roles, it just gets worse and worse all the time. In this book, like Perrin is basically being told that his girlfriend wants him to be aggressive because her people like aggressive people. And while I love his girlfriend, like I like her personality because I like that she's feisty, Perrin is like, I don't think she wants me to yell at her. And the guy's like, no, she does, bro. And I'm like, okay, we'll see where I don't even know what to say. We'll see where it goes, I guess. But I'm going to continue listening to this. Today I am just doing some like organizational and menial tasks for work, so I am able to put this on audio, and we'll see where life takes us. Hello, so I am very sick. It is several days later. I don't know why I did this video to myself, but I'm making myself a soup, and I think to finish out this vlog, I'm just going to read the last volume of Neon Genesis Evangelion. So we have a complete circle. I wanted to read multiple things for this vlog. It did not happen. I'm struggling. I'll explain why after, once I'm like completely done. I just wanted to let you know that while I'm on lunch, I will be reading this, finishing it, and we'll wrap everything up. Hello, this is the last clip. Let's wrap out this vlog finally. I don't know if you could tell by the way I'm talking, but I also suffered from a very intense cold this week, so thanks for that. But let's get into my final thoughts of the last two things I read. First, of course, as you saw, I finally fucking finished Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan, book 8. This is definitely part of the sluggish parts of the Wheel of Time series. I've been up and down with the series over the course of the last like year and a bit, but this is starting to be the more difficult ones to read. I've been shrugging my way through, and it is just torture to get through these books, and this is mostly why it took me so long to finish this vlog. I just wasn't into this book. I didn't feel like doing it, and alas, here we are. I think you could just tell by the way I'm acting about finishing this book that it wasn't the greatest of ratings or opinions. I ended up giving this a 2.5 stars, right in the middle. It's definitely on the weaker side of the Wheel of Time books that I've read, and given how it's one of the shortest books in the series, I can't believe it took me this long to read. The characters were dull. The writing was repetitive as usual, but we know this about Robert Jordan, but here I found it to be like insufferable. And the only reason why this didn't get like a 1 or 2 star and was bumped up a bit more was that the ending really saved the book, because I fell asleep reading this 3 times. And that's just not normal for me. If a book is making me fall asleep, it's not, you know, it's not there. It's not with me. So the ending was captivating. It made me intrigued to dive into Winter's Heart, but I'm definitely afraid of it because obviously this is the weakest part of the series. And then, of course, as you saw yesterday, just to lift my spirits, I ended up just finishing the Neon Genesis Evangelion manga series with the final volume, volume 5. And this was amazing. I gave it a 4.5 stars. Obviously, the series as a whole was and is still very, very, very special to me. The final volume was really beautiful and really concluded the series in a meaningful way. Was it a little cheese? Sure. But I feel like it fits so well with the overall theme of the series and gives like our characters a break. So I gobbled it up anyways. The only reason I couldn't give this a full 5 stars, that if you watched Evangelion, if you've read this manga series, you know that there are some things that are very like manga of the 90s things that make me feel a little uncomfy, especially in this volume because they're like full spread. So I was a little uncomfortable there, but I still really enjoyed this volume, love how it concluded the series, and it definitely saved my like slumpish feelings. And so for that, I am thankful. And that's it. That's the end of the vlog. Finally, if you've read any of these books, please let me know down below what you thought about them. How has your May reading been going? Clearly, my month has been horrible. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social media and see how my reading journey is going, I always leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. And of course, because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. I tell you every time, but it does wonders for my channel. It makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Okay, bye!